And now on to our show. Here is our starting lineup. Our leadoff hitter is a New Yorker who earned his bachelor degree at MIT in mechanical engineering before becoming a biomechanics expert at the U.S. Olympic Training Center. I turned down MIT. It was there that he met an up-and-coming orthopedic surgeon named Jim Andrews with a shared interest in the science and medicine of baseball. After receiving a master's degree at Washington University, he was hired by Dr. Andrews to run the research at the newly founded American Sports Medicine Institute in Birmingham, Alabama. He later earned a PhD from the University of Alabama, Birmingham. During the past 30 years at ASMI, he has published 150 scientific papers with his colleagues, including studies on the biomechanics of pitching and studies on pitch counts and injuries. He is also chair of the Medical Safety Committee for USA Baseball, injury research advisor for Major League Baseball, and pitching safety consultant for Little League Baseball. Here is the medical director and research director of Dr. Andrews' American Sports Medicine Institute. Please help me welcome Dr. Glenn Fleisig. Batting second, the professor of clinical orthopedic surgery at the Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons and an attending orthopedic surgeon at the New York Presbyterian Columbia University Medical Center. He currently serves as the chief of sports medicine and as the director of biomechanics research at the Center for Orthopedic Research. He has authored more than 100 articles and book chapters related to knee, shoulder, elbow, and sports medicine, and has given more than 100 lectures nationally and internationally. He is a member of the Major League Baseball Team Physicians Association and co-founder of the Baseball Health Network to promote the health of young athletes. He is the head team physician for the minor league Rockland Boulders, New York City Football Club for local high schools, and serves as consultant to local metropolitan gymnastics and swim teams. A slacker. Please help me welcome the head team physician for the New York Yankees. We're thrilled to have Dr. Christopher Ahmat. Batting third, he is regarded as the most successful pitching coach in modern-day Major League Baseball. His Atlanta Braves pitchers finished first or second in the National League 12 times. He guided 6 Cy Young winners, 4 ERA titleists, 9 20-game winners, and had 10 different pitchers named to the National League All-Star team. 3 of his pitchers, Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and John Smoltz, are in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He was the pitching coach for the team that won 14 consecutive division titles, 5 National League pennants, and the 1995 World Series. He pitched 10 seasons in the minors, 7 with San Francisco, 3 with Oakland, and spent 26 seasons in the Braves organization and 2 more with the Baltimore Orioles. Here's number 54, Leo Mazzone. Thank you. And finally, Cy Young didn't have the most wins in baseball, and neither did Mariano Rivera have the most saves. That distinction went to Dr. Frank Jobe. He made what many consider the most extraordinary medical advance in baseball history on our guest of honor. He won 288 games in the major leagues in a career that started in 1963 as a 20-year-old with the Cleveland Indians. He was 31 years old and pitching for the Los Angeles Dodgers when he missed the 1975 season due to the ligament replacement surgery that now bears his name. It allowed him to eventually pitch 26 years until age 46. He won 164 of his 288 games after the surgery, including 20 games 3 times, twice for the Yankees. You know, I also pitched, and I was just as good as Tommy John when Tommy John was 8 years old. Please help me welcome my friend, as I introduce him on the air all the time, Tommy John Surgery.
You sure? We're gonna move it anyway. You're positive? Yeah. Okay. I need a good orthopedic surgeon.
Before we begin our discussion, we direct your attention to the video board behind home plate for this message from John Smoltz, Hall of Fame class of 2015, the only pitcher in the Hall of Fame to have had Tommy John surgery after becoming the first pitcher to win 200 games and save 150 others.
Sorry I couldn't be with you tonight. Two great causes. First, Ed Randall's Fans for Cure, prostate cancer education, and then of course Tommy John discussion and a topic of how to eradicate the Tommy John surgeries. If my schedule was better, I'd love to have been there for this great topic and this great event. Obviously, I've had Tommy John surgery. I'm very passionate about it. I spoke about it in my Hall of Fame speech. And it's in the hands of the parents right now. The information's out there. The doctors have given us so much information and studies on what and how to prevent Tommy John surgeries. It starts young. And I'll say this, too much velocity, too early is something the young tendons and the young arms cannot take up. This is something that we've got to address, and the entities that are out there promoting the game of baseball don't really care about that. Their ticket is to tell you that draft dollars and scholarship dollars will benefit from having played year-round baseball. We've got to eliminate year-round baseball. We've got to eliminate the radar gun, allow these kids to have more throws, less competition throws. Throwing a baseball is not the problem. The high velocity, the high stress innings, and basically too much, too early for these young kids. I hope you enjoyed tonight's panel. You're in for a treat. I wish I could be there. And as you know, I'm passionate about the game of baseball, and we have so many young superstars that I'd like to see pitch as long as possible. Have a great evening.
Is it centered?
Are you gonna sit there, or?
Yeah, but we gotta move it back. We gotta cover all the altars. Good. Worked out. It is a great honor for me to have all of you come from all over the country to be with us tonight. I really appreciate that. Tommy, we got to start with you, obviously, because we got to get the background. But you were a kid, you once told me.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't yet one.
I know. And
We all were one.
And the time at which you were, that when you went from 46 feet to 60 feet,
Right.
you had pain.
Yes, I didn't pitch my 13-year-old year in Babe Ruth Lake in Terre Haute, Indiana. I had some pain in my elbow, and so my dad, he didn't have health insurance, and to go to some doctor would cost him more money than he made in a day, and so he took me to a local baseball coach that had a good idea. He just said, shut it down for the rest of the season and play first base, work on your hitting, and that's what I did. And I came back when I was 14, pitched all the way through high school, signed a contract after high school with the Cleveland Indians, and I started my trip through the minor leagues. And it wasn't about halfway through the '62 season, I started to get that same pain back in the inside of my left elbow. And back in that day, now, if you feel like you're going to fart, you'll go into the trainer and say, oh God, I've got flatulence. And they'll shut you down for a month. And they'll go, but back then, if you did that, Leo, buddy, good to see you, you're back home. So you learned early on that you zipped it. Now, we never had, in the minor leagues, a pitching coach. We never had a trainer. We had a bus driver that would rub your arm down, and we had a manager, and that was it. That was 61, 62, 63, and 64. We did not have a pitching coach, so, but my arm kept getting worse and worse, and I kept shut, boom, and I pitched, and it felt okay. I went to Puerto Rico in the winter of 63, and I pitched about 6 games down there, and I had a 9-inning shutout, and the next day I got up and I couldn't move my arm. So I had to tell somebody now, because when you're walking around like this, it's tough to pitch if you've got an immobile left arm. And I told them they sent me to a female physical therapist that my dog could have licked my elbow better than she did. Not that she licked it, but she massaged it. I didn't want you, to think that I was weird. But I had to, so Cleveland, I went back home, and Cleveland sent me over to St. Louis. Now, why wouldn't I go to the Cleveland doctor? Because St. Louis at the time had a trainer named Bob Bowman. And Bob had a lot of good ideas about conditioning, strengthening your elbow. And November 22nd, 1963, the day Jack Kennedy got shot, I got my first shot in my elbow. Between that day, Ed, and July 17th, 1974, I probably had 50 to 60 shots in my elbow. And when I told Dr. Job this, he goes, "Ooh!" He says, "My God, it's a wonder that you lasted as long as you did." And that, in essence, is the story of Tommy John elbow.
And he had removed bone chips from you
In 72. Yeah, I had tore the flexor mass off my elbow in 72. And actually, it's funny how things work in your life. You get to see a good lady golf pro like Kim Ng, and it's God works in mysterious ways. And it was that surgery that helped me with the 74 surgery, or 75 comeback. They had the surgery, and it was simple. I mean, it was, okay, done, I'm ready to throw. Spring training, I'm not throwing. I mean, I'm throwing, but I'm not throwing good. And everybody's asking me, is your arm okay? Tommy, is your arm okay? Tommy, is your arm okay? And finally, 2 of the wives of our coaches with the Dodgers asked me, is your arm hurting you? And I blew up at them and yelled and screamed. And the next day, I came to the ballpark, and I told my wife as I walked out of the house, when I come back, you might have to start getting the place ready in spring training because we're going to be going home. I got a baseball. Well, I got 6 of them. And I threw got loose. And if you ever been to Vero, they have the string section back there. I got a catcher. I threw for 1 hour as hard as I could throw. Came back in, ran, came back the next day. I got 6 more baseballs. I threw for 45 minutes. Curveballs, as hard as I could throw curveballs. Next day, came back, my arm was fine. I said, this feels pretty good. And Dr. Job had told me, he said, all the coaches, the manager, the trainers, all these guys cannot tell you that you're ready to pitch. Only you can tell you that you're ready to pitch. And when you convince yourself that you're healed and you can throw, you'll be fine. He said, well, right now, you're the same as you were in 1972 early on, but you don't think it. And when I found that out, those 2 days of just blister, who in their right mind? Only a left-hander from Terre Haute, Indiana would do something that dumb. But I convinced myself that my arm wasn't going to hurt. And that was the thing, and I went on and I won in 73. I think I won 16 ball games, but that helped me in 75 because I had to convince myself in 75 that my arm was okay.
So July 17th, 1974, against the Montreal Expos, may they rest in peace, in Los Angeles, you rupture your ligament, you're 13-3.
Omar took him down. You know that, don't you? Omar Minaya took him down. I'm just saying.
You're right. So you rupture your ligament, you first tried rest.
Yes.
What therapies did you first resort to, and what was your reaction when Dr. Job told you what he was contemplating?
Therapies, I hadn't heard of HGH or steroids then, but ice, heat, mainly heat. I was a whirlpool addict. In the 75, when I was coming back, my left arm was in the, and now when I have it in the whirlpool, it's not 104. It's like 114, 15, 16. My arm was burnt or dark from my wrist to my shoulder of being in that hot whirlpool every day. I was a hot water addict. That's all we had back then. And we had, you know, you had the exercises that you did, but I had a bucket of rice that I had. That was one of the things that Bob Bowman had me do, is run my hand down in a bucket of ice. Uncooked rice is much tougher than cooked rice. But
Carlton used to do that, didn't he?
yes, he did. Yeah, they were light years ahead of their training. Gus Heffling was their strength coach. He was a Eastern martial arts guy, and they did all this stuff that, you know, looked like kung fu things, but they were light years ahead of there. And that's all I did, just that. And then rest, came back. I tried to pitch, couldn't. And the biggest thing, the thing about Dr. Job, he was concerned about me as a person more than me as a ball player, because my wife was pregnant with our first child. And his thing was, when this fails, do you have means to take care of your family? It wasn't, well, I can do this job, I'll do this, and you'll come back and you'll win 200 games post-surgery and all this. Do you have means to support your family when this fails?
Because he estimated that the chance of success was 5%.
Yeah, a little less than 5. See, I was a math major in college, and I told him, I said, give me numbers. You can do all this malarkey and words, and it just goes through my head. Give me numbers, and he said, less than 5%. I said, okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he said, probably that. I said, okay. I said, if you do your job, I will more than do my job. And he told me then, he said, Tommy, I can only do about 30 or 40% of what needs to be done. And then you have to take the ball and do the other 60 to 70%. And he's absolutely right. And I did my job, and thank God Frank Jobe did his job, and then some.
And you never missed a start.
Never missed a start in 13 years post-surgery.
That's amazing.
And I pitched 4 days rest, 3 days rest, pitched out of the bullpen in between starts, and never missed a start.
Amazing. Leo, the 800-pound gorilla in the room, why are you not in the game of baseball?
Well, I think right now, I talked to John Sherholz, and he told me, he said, look, Leo, he said, if an organization wants to bring you in, here's what we want you to do. And he said, what's your answer going to be? I said, well, my answer is going to be, if you're bringing me in, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. Because the track record is there. And a lot of things that we've been discussing out there and everything else is what should be done. And people don't want to hear that anymore. I mean, here's, for example, you got a Hall of Fame pitcher sitting next to me, a left-handed Hall of Fame pitcher, who they say doesn't throw hard enough. Well, this velo term, or this velocity term, is a big cause for the arm problems they're having with youngsters, oldsters, or whoever. I was watching the draft the other night, and the question was asked of one of the pitchers that was drafted, what did it feel like to throw 100 miles an hour? I thought, well, that just ruined him, you know. I mean, seriously. We never concerned ourselves with how hard we threw. during that 14-year run where we went 537 starts without missing one, that was from 91 to 93 when these kids were young. If you ever remember one thing, listen to this. More often, less exertion. More often, less exertion. We would go down to the bullpen as often as we could, practice our craft at 60 feet, 6 inches, going downhill to a catcher, but regulating the effort, trying to get some touch on the ball. Not one time in my coaching career did somebody say, Leo, I want to throw, and I said, no. Let's go throw. We're preparing. If it was a reliever, we were preparing for tonight's game. If it's a starter, you're always preparing for your next start. And it worked like a charm. We had 2 Tommy John surgeries, homegrown Tommy John surgeries, in that 14-year run. You can't make a 14-year run without a pitching staff staying healthy. And you know what? We thought in terms of being sneaky quick as opposed to overpowering. If we were sneaky quick, all of a sudden, if we controlled the effort, our mechanics smoothed out, our release smoothed out, and we were able to practice more often with less exertion. And that's what the guys did. I talked to Glavin in Cooperstown. He said, Leo, I said, Tommy, what if we told everybody what we did in between starts? He goes, they tell you can't do that. Well, don't tell me you can't do that. I had some great teachers in the game, only 3 or 4. I had 250 that taught me how not to do it.
Leo and I were together in the Pacific Coast League. He was with these
Tucson Toros, yeah.
Incredible team.
What, you want to tell me I didn't cover first on that play?
No. Leo was in Tucson with the Tucson Toros, which was the Oakland A's AAA, and I was in Spokane with the Texas Rangers. But years before, Leo had been signed by the San Francisco Giants, and in 1969, in Decatur, Illinois, pitching in the Midwest League, he had 26 starts, 17 complete games, 186 innings pitched, and 15 wins. That's 3 seasons now in the minor leagues for pitchers.
Well, in the minor leagues now, it's absolutely a joke. I was talking to some Class A managers, and they told me that when they sign a pitcher now, their pitch limit is like 60 to 70 pitches.
Okay.
I said, how the hell are you going to explain that to a youngster that's out there pitching well and he feels good? He goes, well, I have to go out to the mound and say, well, I got to take you out because the front office says I have to. How do you think the manager feels just saying that? Why do you think they're taking power away from the managers in the minor leagues? Taking power away from the coaches? Taking power away from people in the big leagues, some organizations. Here's the thing. The innings limit in all of baseball, I don't care how old you are or how young you are, is a joke. The greatest teacher a pitcher has is innings pitched, where he teaches himself how to pitch. And it's our job to control what they do in between, allow them to throw, but controlling the effort on the pitches. As soon as a pitcher finds out the amount of effort he has to put on a pitch to get the end result that he wants, he lowers the risk of arm injury. More often, less exertion is what works. What baseball is doing now, less often, more exertion.
And you not only hate the innings limits, you want to take the velocity and the pitch counts off the board.
Well, I think pitch count, look, pitch counts, I used to lie, you know, Bobby would say, how many pitches does Glavin have? I said, he goes, is that your count or the real count? But then they put him on the board and I couldn't lie anymore. But Maddox always knew what his pitch count was, but the other guys didn't. I talked Smoltz into, you know, or Glavin to pitch another inning or so. But I would have never done anything to abuse those guys, that's for sure. I mean, you know what I told them when we brought those philosophies into the Braves major leagues in 1990, June of 1990, I had a great teacher in Johnny Sane, and I listened to him, I took everything in, and don't tell me this is old school, it's the old guys, that's a bunch of BS. You can allow pitchers to throw, you can allow them to practice their craft. It's the coach that can't do it half the time, and it's the coach that's scared because they're trying to cover their butt. I never coached a game. You know, here was the greatest thing that happened to me in my career. It wasn't the great pitch. I had great pitchers, and good pitching coaches don't mess up great pitchers. I know that. When I was in the minor leagues with the Braves, Hank Aaron was my boss, and he said, Leo, I don't care what you do with your pitchers, take care of them. Then when I got to the big leagues, Bobby said, Leo, there's your guys. I don't care what you do, take care of the pitchers. I wasn't told how many pitches they should throw, how this, how that. You know what? You have to have a feel for that and a sense for that. And you understand everybody's mechanics are a little bit different. You try to work off of a base, but the simplicity of the game is what we did extremely well. The simplicity. In other words, throwing the baseball, practicing your craft. I had a coach one time tell me, well, Mazzone, you know what? This was in '91 when we first started, Tommy. He says, well, you know what, Mazzone? He says, by August, you won't have anybody left standing. I said, really? I said, well, when I have my guys throwing off the mound a little extra at 60 feet 6 inches going downhill to a catcher, what do? Well, we throw flat-footed at 40 feet, 25 pitches. I went, well, what the hell's that do, you know? He goes, I said, why can't I do what I do? He says, well, they'll have a tendency to throw too hard. I said, that's what the hell they pay you for, is to regulate the effort. All pitchers love it. All coaches can't do it.
Dr. Ahmat, the White Sox team physician, Dr. Anthony Romeo, wrote an article last month that reported that some young pitchers showed fatigue-related changes in their throwing motions after as few as 30 pitches, with the majority faltering by 90, the maximum workload recommended for 12 and 13-year-olds. Fatigue seems to be the underlying issue in most Tommy John injuries, and younger arms fatigue more quickly. What are your thoughts? And we're so happy to have you.
Well, that's a great opportunity for us to talk about why the ligament fails, why it gets injured. And basically, there's too much stress on the ligament. This ligament that gets injured is about the size of a shoelace. And the strength of it, if you took it in the lab and pulled it apart, is weaker than a shoelace. It only can sustain about 50 pounds of force. And with every throw, the estimated force across the elbow exceeds that. So there are things that protect your elbow. And the first is proper pitching mechanics. And the mechanics of a throw start from force generation in the lower half of your body. So you'll see the pitchers have incredible lower leg with amount of mass and strength. And it's that drive towards home plate that creates a movement of mass that then gets transferred and regulated through the upper extremity and finally to ball release. So if you have fatigue, if your lower legs are getting tired, if you're not driving well towards home plate, you're going to have altered mechanics. You're going to change the stress on this very vulnerable ligament, and that's how you're going to have injuries. So it's not the amount of throws, it's when you start to put more stress on the ligament that exceeds its strength that gets you into trouble.
I want to stay with you for a second. It was well publicized here in New York about Tanaka pitching through a partially torn ulnar collateral